Everybody is really, really affected by people's opinions of them, and especially when they feel rejected, until they understand why it's happening, and then they have a strategy to overcome it. What's up? So in this video, we're going to be talking about 4 effective ways to deal with people's rejection. If you are struggling with people's rejection and it makes you feel insecure, it makes you angry, it makes you frustrated, it makes you feel isolated and alone, and so many negative emotions, and you don't really know how to deal with it, this video is for you. And I have tried and proven these 4 things over the last decade, and I have proven them to be true. I once suffered immensely with feeling rejected by people. It's because I wasn't applying these 4 things, and many years ago I started to apply them, and it has worked wonders in my life. Okay, so before we get into this, if you don't know who I am, my name is Jordan Hardgrave. I created the Trauma Free Academy, where we help traumatized people experience post-traumatic growth and reclaim their life using the healing power of their own body. So if you would like my help on your journey to heal from things like anxiety, panic attacks, depersonalization, realization, emotional numbness, maybe time feels distorted, your memory feels weird, and all those symptoms, I would love to help you. Click that subscribe button, click like if this helps you, comment something below. And also we have our brand new masterclass called the 5 Shifts to Heal from Trauma. There's a link below if you're struggling with any of those symptoms I mentioned, and at the end there is an invitation to work with me and my team to help you on this journey in our 12-week mentorship program called Rise. Let's get into the video. So the first thing that you need to know is why you were so affected by people's rejection. And you need to know that this is something that everybody experiences. It's not just you. Now, maybe not everybody admits this, but we all feel rejected by people sometimes. But if you don't understand why it's happening and you don't have a strategy, you're going to be really affected by this. And that's pretty much everybody too. Like, even if they don't tell you, everybody is really affected by people's opinions of them, and especially when they feel rejected, until they understand why it's happening, and then they have a strategy to overcome it. Why is that? Well, it goes back to the African savannah, where our ancient ancestors had to be in a tribe to survive. You couldn't survive as an individual. You would get eaten by a lion if you were an individual and you didn't have the protection of the tribe. And we still have that hard wiring in our brains because we inherited their brains. Even though it's 2023, all the lions are locked up in the zoos, we still have the brain as if there were lions everywhere. And we still have a tribal brain as well. So what that means is whenever you get rejected by somebody, your brain is going to make you believe that you could die from that. Literally, think about it. Whenever our ancient ancestors were in the African savannah, if you got rejected by the tribe, you died. You literally died because you would be an individual and you wouldn't be able to survive. And so whenever you see this from your brain's perspective, it makes sense why rejection stings so much. Because your brain thinks that, oh, this person's rejecting you, you're getting booted out of the tribe, you're about to get eaten by the lions. And so what we instinctually do is we start to chase people, and we start to try to win them over, right? And that's us yielding to that survival disposition. And so that's why it's happening. And instead of trying to win people over, we need to have a strategy that will allow us to disarm this false alarm that's going off, because we can be rejected by people and we're not going to die. We're not living in the African savannah anymore. We are in the 21st century, and the conditions that were present are no longer present. So here are some strategies that will help you disarm that survival instinct to try to chase people and win them over, and also to just marinate in that pain whenever they reject you. You can think of this as like a smoke alarm going off when there's no fire, right? It's a false alarm. Maybe there's smoke from burnt bacon or something like that. So the first thing that is really powerful, you need to consider the source. All right, I'm going to tell you a story. So I worked at this huge grocery warehouse. It was like 1 million square feet and tons and tons of employees. And I had just started this job, and there was this short little lady that you would never think would be mean or angry. She just looked like a sweet little old lady. She was mean. not only was she mean, I mean, she was like hostile. And I basically stayed after work every day so I could, get some extra hours and things like that. And I ended up having to talk to her for something that I needed to do with my job. And she was just very rude to me, like, why don't you just go put it over there? No, and if you do this, then I'm just going to be so irritated because that's what people always do. Ugh, I mean, she was like raging. And so it hurt. It stung. But one thing that I taught myself to do is consider the source. Maybe this has nothing to do with me. Maybe she's just really hurt, because hurt people hurt people. And so I went and asked some other people. I said, hey, have you ever had any dealings with this lady? And they said, oh yeah, dude, she's just really mean, and she's hateful to everybody. And I was like, okay. And it turns out it had nothing to do with me as an individual. So don't assume that because you're being rejected that it has anything to do with you as an individual. They could be rejecting everybody, right? So calm your body for a second. That's going to activate your prefrontal cortex, logical, critical, creative, and contextual thinking, and start to think about it. Consider the source. Maybe this person is just angry. Maybe they're hurt. Maybe they're depressed, and they're just projecting that onto other people. And also, if this is somebody at your job or school or just whatever, ask other people, hey, have you had any dealings with this person? And how do they treat you? And you're probably going to find it doesn't have anything to do with you. Now, if you're going around being mean to people, maybe it does have something to do with you. But if you're kind and you're trying to love people, chances are, if people are rejecting you, they either didn't mean to, or they're rejecting everybody, and it's not just you. Number 2 is to build self-confidence. Part of why rejection stings so much is because it makes us feel like we're not valuable, because the rejection is highlighting something bad about us. And this is part of the development of a healthy sense of self, is you have to be aware of the good things about yourself, and then you also have to be aware of the bad things about yourself and know how to deal with things like weaknesses and mistakes, etc., which I'll talk about in a minute. But here are three different ways. Yeah, 3 different ways that you can build self-confidence. So that way, if people reject you, you can draw upon this self-confidence to help build some security to where their rejection won't sting so much. Because you can say, well, at least I've got this good thing about me. The first thing is, I want you to write out 3 positive things about yourself and speak that out over yourself every single day. I'll never forget, I had just started YouTube, and I had a friend who was a pastor, and I told him, I was like, man, I hate my voice. I just hate the sound of my own voice, and I just feel like I'm not that smart. I was dealing with what's called imposter syndrome, which is where you don't feel like you are qualified to speak or anything like that. And I'll never forget, he said, Jordan, I really like listening to you. And a lot of people like listening to you. He said, you have some very interesting things to say. And he said, you should be confident in that. You should speak that out over yourself every day, like, I am a good speaker. And that's the first time anybody had ever taken the time to build confidence in me and teach me how to build confidence. And I started to do that, and it really helped. So this would have been back in like 2017 or so. The next thing is, don't take yourself so seriously. Nobody takes you as seriously as you do. And sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves that it makes us really vulnerable to people's rejection, because we're already holding ourselves to such an impossible standard that if somebody highlights some sort of problem that we have or mistake that we've made, we're already walking on eggshells anyway. So it's like, oh no, oh gosh. But whenever you start to not take yourself so seriously and actually learn to laugh whenever you make mistakes, whenever people reject you, it's not going to hurt as much, because you're already learning to laugh at yourself whenever you make mistakes. So if somebody else highlights a mistake that you've made or a weakness, you've already gotten into the habit of learning to laugh at it. I do it all the time. I'll just say or do something stupid, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, Jordan, like, dude, there you go again, man. Like, you're human, but it's all good. I've learned to laugh at myself, and it's really helped. The next thing, oh yeah, another quote is, nobody expects you to be perfect except for you. You have to get rid of this standard of perfection over yourself. We're all human. We're all just as messed up as everybody else. The next thing is, when you have a failure, see it as an opportunity for growth, right? In order to have a healthy sense of self, you got to build yourself up with positive things, but you got to know how to deal with the negative things, and failure is one of them. It's going to happen, especially if you want to be successful in life. Thomas Edison, after he made the light bulb, he was interviewed, and they asked him, how does it feel to have failed 1,000 times at making the light bulb? And he said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned 999 ways how not to make a light bulb. And Thomas Edison said, great success is built on failure. You have to start to frame success as a positive, because it's moving you one step closer to being successful. Everybody fails. Elon Musk, who is, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant people that's ever lived, a lot of people see him being very successful now with Tesla and SpaceX. He launched $2 billion rockets that I think they exploded on impact. And I believe he said that if the third rocket would have exploded, he would have gone bankrupt, right? You think your failures are bad? I think my failures are bad. Imagine having $1 billion failure. But he kept going, and he saw it as an opportunity. Okay, let's adjust this thing and this thing and this thing. And on the third rocket, it went into space. So the next thing, number 3, is reject people's praises, and you won't be affected by the rejection. There is a connection between how much that you feel rejected by people and how much that you need people's praises. And I'll kind of give you a story of kind of something that I've gone through over the last number of years, being kind of an online figure where I have just tons of people, constantly telling me, hey, Jordan, you helped me so much, and you changed my life, and you're amazing. Well, whenever I first started doing YouTube, I internalized that. And I'd be like, man, this is awesome, man. Yeah, like I helped them. This is great, right? And what ended up happening is I started to be really affected by people's rejection, because I was needing people's praise for me to feel good. And so the rejection stung a lot because I had an expectation of praise. But what I had to learn to do is I had to start to learn to reject people's praise. So I've been doing this for a number of years now, but if you give me like a really big compliment, so I do what's called a discovery call where I talk to people about possibly joining our 12-week program, and I would say probably 50% or more of the time, the person will be like, oh my gosh, Jordan, like I've been watching you for so many years, you've changed my life, I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity, like, oh my gosh, Jordan, like, thank you for what you do. And I will say like, oh, thank you very much, like that means a lot to me. I'm rejecting it. I am not receiving that. I'm not saying that you need to not, say that you're thankful for me if you do book a discovery call or anything. Just be yourself. But I'm just letting you know, I don't receive that. I really don't. I basically let it go in one ear and out the other, because I know if I start to get really dependent on people's praises, then I will be disproportionately hurt by their rejection. So I reject people's praises, and all of a sudden, I am not as affected by their rejection. So the rejection and praise of men work together in a very significant way. So number 4 is you need to remind yourself whenever you're rejected that I don't need to be in a tribe to survive. Remember, your brain thinks that you getting rejected is going to get you eaten by the lion. So sometimes just calming your body for a few seconds, which is going to restore your ability to think, and just reminding yourself, you know what? They can reject me and I'm still going to make it. Food, water, clothing, shelter, warmth. Those are the 5 basic survival needs. You're going to have those met even if they reject you, right? We're not living in the African savannah anymore. That was our ancient ancestors. We are in the 21st century. The lions are locked up at the zoo, which is very sad, actually. That's a whole nother topic. But anyway, we're not going to die if we get rejected, but you have to remind your brain that. So calm your body for a few seconds and tell yourself out loud, I don't need to be in a tribe to survive, and it will really, really help you. And I also want to give a caveat to that. You do need a tribe in terms of it's really, really important. In terms of you do need to find your tribe, whether it's, through a church or, sports, or whether it's, just hobbies or just a friend group. Like, you do need a group of people. Like, social connection is paramount. And co-regulation, being around people that make you feel safe and calm, that is paramount. Like, I'm not trying to indicate that you don't need to connect with people. That is essential for health and well-being. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to your survival, you could have everybody in the world reject you, and you're still going to have food, water, clothing, shelter, warmth, right? So that's what you're acknowledging whenever you say, I don't need to be in a tribe to survive. You do need to be in a tribe to feel good in life, right? I mean, you can feel good by yourself, but like, for example, my wife and I just joined a church. This church has completely changed our lives. They are some of the most incredible, loving people that we've ever met. They treated us like family from the moment that we walked in the door. And not only that, but just the preaching is amazing. The services are just amazing. But it has elevated my life and my wife's life in ways that we can't express with words. Like, you need a tribe, okay? I want to be very clear. Some people have heard me say, I don't need to be in a tribe to survive, and they thought that I was communicating that you don't need a tribe as far as to be connected to a group of people, and that is definitely not what I meant. I meant you need to acknowledge that you don't need people to like you to survive your 5 basic survival needs, and by acknowledging that, it's going to help rewire your brain whenever you get rejected that, hey, I'm going to be able to move on, and you're not going to be as stressed out and overwhelmed when people reject you. All right, that is it. I hope you have an awesome day. Make sure to click like if this helped you. Also, again, subscribe if you need help healing from trauma and all the related symptoms, and please apply these things. It will radically change your life, and I hope you have an amazing day.